Welcome back, everybody. Jeffrey here once again, and I just want to say I'm super excited to start this series of basic regenerative science. Hopefully it'll help a lot of you that are out there start to formulate that education surrounding regenerative medicine. So today I'm starting super simple. This is going to be a short video, super simple, but the objective is to understand characterization of different classes, really, let's call them transplants for lack of a better word at this point. So the first one I'm going to start with is probably one you're going to see most often, and it's autologous. Autologous, right? Autologous. Auto means self, right? So it essentially means the donor and the recipient are the same. They're the same species, and they're the same exact person for all intents and purposes, right? So some very common ones you're going to run into in biomedicine are platelet-rich plasma, right? So they withdraw a blood sample, they process it outside of the body, and then they re-inject it. But the key is it's same donor, same recipient. Bone marrow aspirate concentrates, another one where they harvest bone marrow, isolate medicinal signaling cells, and then re-inject that into the patient. So again, same donor, same recipient. I think probably one of the most common, it's probably been going on the longest, has been therapies for hematopoietic disorders. So things like leukemia, where they'll harvest the bone marrow cells from a patient, store them. The patient will undergo a series of chemotherapy, and then they'll reintroduce those bone marrow hematopoietic stem cells into the patient so that they can start repopulating their blood cells, so on and so forth. So, I mean, that's one of the earliest, and that's actually an FDA approved procedure from my understanding. Skin grafts from one part of your body to another. Again, same donor, same recipient. Okay. The next class I want to talk to, which is largely the world that I live in, and that's called allogeneic. So the difference between autologous and allogeneic is that the donor and the recipient are not the same. Okay. Same species, right? Human beings, right? But the donor and the recipient are the same, are different individuals. So some examples like that might be simple blood transfusions. That's taking tissue from somebody else. Blood is in fact a tissue. Taking tissue from somebody else and injecting it, transplanting it into somebody else. That's an allogeneic type of graft. I mentioned kind of the world I live in are placental, umbilical therapies, and those tend to be injectables for the most part. Some of them are topical, but they come from a different donor than is the recipient. So that makes them allogeneic therapies, okay? So, another thing is if you're doing skin grafts, you can get dermis, you can get donor human dermis. For skin graft applications, you might see this with some burn patients and things like that. So those are also, they fall into this category of allogeneic, different donor than is the recipient, okay? So allogeneic. So far we've talked about autologous, allogeneic, pretty simple stuff. Throw you a little curveball right now. And these are popular in surgical applications. We used to sell a lot of these grafts that come from other species, right? Porcine pigs, bovine cows, equine horses, right? So they tend to be epithelial dermal linings that we use for, or that surgeons will use for supporting grafts to augment soft tissue. And these are called xenografts, okay? So that's kind of the third one. But when you're talking about biomedicine today, you're largely focused on the first two. But there's some really interesting work being done with the xenografts. There are lines of research that I find incredibly exciting, and that's the concept of ghost organs, where they'll harvest a heart, let's say, from a pig, or a liver from a pig, who are genetically, they're very, very similar to human beings. So, they tend to have, a little less likelihood of a severe graft versus host disease. But what they do is they digest all of the cellular elements from the porcine heart, right? So you're left with this skeleton, this cartilaginous connective tissue skeleton, and then you repopulate that with human cells, which I think is a really interesting technology. There's actually some companies out there that have really advanced this technology just almost to the cusp of commercialization. So that's pretty exciting. So again, just to sum up, we've got autologous, we've got allogeneic, and then we've got xenografts, or xenogeneic is what they're often called. So anyway, I told you this is going to be a simple first video. I hope you learned a few new words today, and if you see these words on a website or in an office or in any type of marketing mailing or what have you, at least now you'll kind of understand what categories of therapies you're in fact dealing with. So thanks again for watching. Truly appreciate it. Stay regenerative, my friends. Talk soon.